Heady gains in the U.S. equities power up stocks with advances far outstripping the declines. IT and metals lead the charge while consumer discretionaries drag today.
IT stocks rally on the back of a strong rebound in global tech names. HCL Tech's transformation client win and TCS results today are other cues supported now by more reasonable valuations.
Tata Steel and JSW Steel rise on positive volume trends while Titan skids on valuation concerns despite a mostly healthy quarter. Paytm's healthy growth and RBI nod for its payments bank MD provides a boost to the stock.
Divestment Secretary tells CNBC-TV18 that the government and LIC will eventually exit IDBI Bank and that the mode of stake sale in ITC by SUTI has not been decided. He added that exemption to PSUs from minimum public shareholding norms will be on a case-by-case basis and only for a specified period.
Even as lenders weigh launching a second auction round for Reliance Capital, bidder Torrent files a fresh plea in NCLT to block the move. CNBC-TV18 learns from sources that the tangle will likely delay the resolution. Hello and welcome. You are tuned into Business Lunch. I'm Nisha Poddar and with me as always is my co-anchor Pavitra Parekh. So Pavitra, what a good start to the week at the moment. And even though the market started with like a 0.5% rise today in the morning and was below 18,000 levels, but it has done a stupendous job in the first half of the trading session. At the moment, slightly lower than the high point of the day, which was above 18,100 levels. At the moment, about a kissing distance from that. Let's do a health check on the other pockets of the market besides the key indices, where Nifty 50 is more than 200 points up in trade at the moment. Well, Bank Nifty is also participating with enough gusto, close to 1% up in trade, but underperforming the key indices today. Mid-caps, again, are really up 0.7% in trade at the moment, but definitely not as much as the key indices are showing, but mid-caps in participation. Advance decline ratio heavily in favor of the advances. So good day of trade today. On my screen at the moment, Mahindra & Mahindra, IndusInd Bank, HCL Tech, TCS ahead of its numbers, which officially kickstarts the earnings season for this particular quarter, is also up in trade today. Pavitra.
Oh, absolutely. Like you said, it's a good day of trade. We saw that good opening and then it's only moved higher since then. But this is a complete broad-based global rally that we're seeing. So let's bring a few of the Asian markets up and you can see what's going on there. That's even more impressive. So here you have some of the rates going on from the Asian markets. So looking very strong. In terms of the sectors which are doing well, it is really IT which is stealing the cake. But remember, this is after the kind of 2% cut that we saw on the IT index on Friday. So do keep that in mind. That said, it is all of the IT names which are doing well. Metals, once again, looking very solid. Reliance adding a lot of support to this market, so that is one of the top gainers as well. The Nifty Bank, like you said, is underperforming, but maybe the next sort of push for the market will come from this space as well, because that is still underperforming. A little bit soft, even in this very strong setup, is the FMCG packs. The likes of Britannia, Tata Consumer looking relatively soft today. So that's what's going on with the market. We're going to keep coming back to this, but let's talk about some individual stocks which are in focus now. We're going to talk about IDBI Bank. The government has received multiple bids for the strategic divestment of the government and LIC stakes in the bank. Sources also told moneycontrol.com that suitors in the first stage of the process include Emirates NBD, Fairfax Group, as well as CVC. So the transaction will now move to the second stage, where due diligence will be conducted. Earlier today, my colleague Sapna got in touch with the Divestment Secretary Tuhin Kanta Pandey, who laid out the road ahead to the stake sale in IDBI Bank. So let's listen to what he had to tell us.
Well, I think the transaction advisor, he has advised that there's been good response.
At least at our end, we can safely assume that at least 3 and more bids have come in. And again, in terms of the potential sectors which are represented, mainly banks, non-banks, or is it a healthy mix?
After the initial bids come in, there is a question of checking the bids and the papers, which the transaction advisor does. Also, there is a fit and proper in this case involved right in the beginning with the RBI, and accordingly, I think they will be submitting papers to the qualified ones will be submitting papers to the RBI. And this is a bank. I think it's more like in the nature of financial information and accounting information, not in terms of as much on the physical aspects. But nevertheless, I think 3 to 4 months is the minimum time which is required for due diligence process. Both LIC and government do not intend to stay on there. It's only an interim arrangements that we are there as a financial investor, both in terms of the size of the transaction that it would mean, also because of the upside that we might like to take it in post disinvestment. Okay. So in both cases, I think both LIC and government, they would like eventually to exit in a time frame which will be defined in future.
All right. So there is enough interest for IDBI Bank, and there is expression of interest which has come in. Now on to the latest and another big story of the day in the ICICI Bank and Videocon loan fraud case and legal relief for Chanda and Deepak Kochar after the Bombay High Court ordered their release, saying that the arrest was not in accordance with the law. In fact, my colleague Santhya joins in with all the details on the development. Santhya.
Yes, this is a relief for the Kochar couple, which was arrested on 23rd of December. CBI, the agency which is investigating ICICI Videocon bank loan fraud, that's the agency which made the arrest. Now, talking about what Bombay High Court has directed, Bombay High Court has directed the interim release of both Chanda Kochar and Deepak Kochar on a cash bail of ₹1 lakh each. So when the Kochar couple was arrested, within a couple of days, their Kochar couples, they moved an application in Bombay High Court. They challenged their arrest and they claimed that the arrest was not in accordance with law. CBI, the arresting agency, the investigating agency, did not follow the protocols and violated the norms under section 41A of CRPC. So this is what the section says, that if an accused is making all the appearances before the investigating agency, cooperating with the investigating agency and providing the required information, in that case the person should not be arrested. So defense counsels argued in the court that both Chanda Kochar and Deepak Kochar, whenever they were called by CBI, they were in touch with the agency. If they wanted a later on date, they contacted the officer and they abided by whatever the agency demanded them to do. They appeared before the agency, and not just that, Chanda Kochar actually carried notes with her in anticipation of what the investigating agency might need to know from her. Apart from that, defense counsels also argued that both Deepak Kochar and Chanda Kochar, they carried documents with them so that they could explain their side as well. CBI argued that yes, the couple was appearing before the agency, but they were evasive. They were not giving correct answers. So Bombay High Court, in a relief to both Deepak Kochar and Chanda Kochar, has granted them interim release on a cash bail of ₹1 lakh each.
All right, Santhya, thanks a lot for getting us all of the details there. But let's also bring you some important national news now. Joshimath in Uttarakhand has been declared a landslide subsidence zone, and over 80 families living in damaged houses in the sinking town have been evacuated to temporary relief centers, with at least 90 more families yet to be evacuated. So the local administration has set up relief centers at 4 to 5 places in the Himalayan town. Meanwhile, police seeking urgent declaration of current incidents of landslides and cracks in Joshimath as a national disaster will also be heard in the Supreme Court today. On the other hand, the people of Joshimath have blamed NTPC's Hydel project for their woes, but NTPC has denied any link of their project to the subsidence. In fact, my colleague Santhya Gora spoke exclusively to Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami to learn more about this. Let's listen into some excerpts from that conversation.
देखिए, अभी इस प्रकार के प्रश्न उठाने से मैं समझता हूँ कोई वो नहीं है। अभी तो इस समय हमारी सबकी प्राथमिकता ये होनी चाहिए। मैं उन समिति के लोगों से भी मिला था और सभी से हमने कहा कि अभी सब लोग एक टीम भावना के रूप में आकर अभी काम करें। बाकी जो इसका विश्लेषण है वो हम लोग स्थिति ठीक हो जाए, सब लोगों को हम बचाव कर पाएँ, उसके बाद हम स्थितियों का विश्लेषण करेंगे। और ये केवल जोशीमठ शहर ही नहीं, अभी जोशीमठ की घटना आई है, लेकिन जोशीमठ के साथ साथ जितने भी इस प्रकार के शहर बसे हुए हैं सभी का देखना पड़ेगा कि कितना वेट इसमें धारण हो सकता है।
अच्छा, और आपके हिसाब से जो आप लोगों ने अब तक सर्वेस कराए होंगे, और ऐसे कौन से शहर हैं जो अब आप लोग ध्यान देंगे उन शहरों पे?
नहीं, जहाँ पर भी देखिए एक जो क्षमता होती है उस शहर की, और हम सभी शहरों की क्षमता का आकलन करवाएंगे। इस घटना के बाद हम ये एक हमारे लिए एक आगे के लिए पार्ट भी है, और जहाँ भी ज़्यादा कंस्ट्रक्शन हो चुका है, जिस शहर की जितनी क्षमता है उससे अगर ज़्यादा हो गया है तो हम उस सभी को रोकेंगे अभी।
सर, बात दरअसल ये है कि सरकारें चाहे किसी भी पार्टी की हों वादा करती हैं, लेकिन जब उसको इम्प्लीमेंट करने की बारी आती है तो वहाँ पे प्रॉब्लम, वहाँ तक दिक्कत वहाँ आ जाती है। अब देखिए, मैं अगर बहुत पीछे जाऊँ तो 2013 के फ्लैश फ्लड्स की बात कर लेते हैं। उसके बाद भी उस वक्त भी बहुत दावे उस वक्त की सरकार ने किए थे। अब मैं आपकी सरकार की बात कर लूँ, पिछले साल भी जो एवलांच आया था उस टाइम पर भी एक्सपर्ट्स ने बड़ी सारी सलाह दी थी। कंस्ट्रक्शन वर्क को सोच समझ के किया जाए, ये बार बार पिछले कई सालों से एक्सपर्ट्स कह रहे हैं। लेकिन चाहे आपकी सरकार हो, चाहे आपसे पहले की सरकारें हों, कोई भी इस पर ध्यान देता हुआ फिलहाल उत्तराखंड में नजर नहीं आ रहा है, क्योंकि एक्सपर्ट्स रिपोर्ट दे चुके हैं कि कितनी बार मना करने के बावजूद भी कंस्ट्रक्शन वर्क ना सिर्फ चल रहा है बल्कि बढ़ता भी जा रहा है, और ये खतरा और भी जगहों को हो रहा है उत्तराखंड में।
नहीं, देखिए, ये कहना बिल्कुल गलत होगा कि सरकारें इस पर ध्यान नहीं दे रही। हम लगातार एक बात मैं कहता रहा हूँ।
फिर जोशीमठ के लोग कह रहे हैं कि उनकी बात पे ध्यान नहीं दिया गया एक साल तक।
मैं आपकी बात का जवाब दे रहा हूँ। देखिए, इस प्रकार की चीज़ें कहना ठीक नहीं है, और ये इसको इतना ज़्यादा वो करने की आवश्यकता भी नहीं है कि हम हमेशा से कहते आए हैं कि इकोलॉजी और इकोनॉमी दोनों का संतुलन हो, और स्थानीय लोगों की वहाँ पर चूँकि सीवरेज का काम होना है, काम बीच में रोका गया, वहाँ पर जो है जो हमारा ड्रेनेज का काम होना है, वह काम भी हमने तत्काल रूप से करवाने का भी निर्णय लिया है। जो भी चीज़ें उसके लिए खतरे की हैं या जिन कारणों से ये हो रहा है, मैंने कहा कि अभी कह पाना जल्दबाजी होगा कि किन कारणों से आया है। एक बार रिपोर्ट आएगी तो उस पर हम लोग पूरी तरह से सख्ती से काम करेंगे।
सर, एक सवाल और जाते थे मैं पूछना चाहूँगी कि अब जो लोग जिन लोगों का रिहैबिलिटेशन पुनर्वसन हो रहा है, कुछ लोगों के घर रहने लायक अब रहे नहीं है, इतनी दरारें आ चुकी हैं, कुछ घर डिमोलिश करने की सलाह भी दी गई है, तो उसका मुआवजा, क्योंकि लोगों के घर टूट रहे हैं, तो उसका मुआवजा क्या राज्य सरकार देगी? क्या आपने पहले से कोई ऐलान कर दिया है या अब कोई ऐलान करने का आप लोग विचार कर रहे हैं?
देखिए, अभी इस पर हम लोग लगातार मॉनिटरिंग हो रही है। आज हमारे मुख्य सचिव और एक टीम वहाँ पर गई हुई है, वो भी आएंगे, और हम इसका चूँकि एक बार पूरी तरह से आकलन हो जाए, आकलन के बाद ही जो है जो भी जरूरी होगा वो करेंगे।
All right, difficult situation there at Joshimath. With that, we'll step into a short breather. But remember, dense fog conditions affect the flight as well as rail conditions and operations in North India. More details on the other.
Welcome back. You're still tuned into Business Lunch. Some important news now. The Vodafone Idea stock has taken a sharp knock in trade. It's down around 5%. This after an SBI-led consortium says it is not in favor of granting additional loans to the company until there is clarity on the government's equity conversions. Remember, the government has already told the telco that they will consider converting license fee and government dues into equity only after the company has infused more capital into themselves. So Ritu is here with all of the details on this one. Ritu.
Well, Vodafone Idea finds itself in a bit of a catch-22 situation because on one hand, the government wants clarity on whether there will be promoter contribution to convert the debt into equity in the company, and on the other hand, lenders are unwilling to grant any additional loans to Vodafone Idea unless they have clarity on when the government will be taking up equity stake in Vodafone. We've been given to understand that Vodafone, of course, has been knocking on lenders' door because it needs close to 7,000 crores to pay dues to Indus Towers immediately, but we've been given to understand lenders are not in favor of granting any additional loans unless, like I said, they have clarity on a promoter equity contribution or infusion in the company, and also clarity on when the government will be taking up equity stake. And more importantly, lenders are worried that this additional loan will be used by Vodafone Idea to clear its existing dues and not really to invest in the growth of the company. So it would be a bit like throwing good money after bad. To understand that lenders have estimated Vodafone Idea will require close to 24,000 crores to meet their immediate financial requirements. Of course, the overall debt is well over 2.2 lakh crores, which includes the AGR dues as well. So it's a bit of a tight situation for Vodafone Idea, and lenders do not seem to be in the mood to grant it any additional loans as of this point of time.
All right, thanks Ritu for that. However, stay on. But on Vodafone Idea, it's a precarious situation because both Vodafone as well as the Aditya Birla Group, which has stake and where Idea was merged to form this VI company. They both have not been considering Vodafone Idea as part of their respective groups, but more as investors coming together to form this company. So that's a precarious situation. Keep an eye out on the third telecom operator in the country. But Ritu, you've also been tracking another development that the Torrent Group has filed a fresh plea in the NCLT to stop the lenders from holding a second round of auctions in the Reliance Capital insolvency proceedings. Tell us more about that.
That's right, the lenders of Reliance Capital are looking to vote on a proposal to allow a second round of auction for the company because two of the interested suitors, which is Torrent and Hinduja Group, tried to revise or tweak their offers after the first round of bidding. And we've been given to understand that in this second round, lenders are looking to set the base bid amount at 9,500 crore rupees in net present value terms, which will include a minimum upfront cash payment of 8,000 crores to the lenders. However, if the second round is allowed, it is not just Torrent and Hinduja that will get to participate, but the other two bidders as well, and that includes the consortium of Piramal and Cosmia as well as Oaktree. However, it will depend on them on whether or not they will come in at the base bid of 9,500 crore rupees. But there is another challenge that has arisen where we understand that Torrent has now moved the NCLT seeking to stop the lenders from considering a second round of e-auction because it believes its bid is still the highest, and that is what the lenders should consider. Remember, in the first round, Torrent had emerged as the highest bidder with an offer of 8,640 crore rupees, and Hinduja the second highest at 8,110. But subsequently, Hinduja revised its offer to about 9,000 crores in NPV terms, which Torrent moved NCLT against and got an interim relief because the court asked the lenders to not consider the revised offer until the final orders, which are still awaited. And subsequently, Torrent also tweaked its bid without changing the overall number by offering the entire amount as upfront cash payment. So we'll have to see what the court says now and whether the lenders decide to go ahead with the second round of e-auction.
All right, Ritu, thanks a lot for getting us all of the latest on the Reliance Capital insolvency case. So that's something important to track. But some more news now. Dense fog conditions in Delhi and other parts of North India has brought visibility down to a minimum today, delaying over 150 domestic flights and forcing cancellation of over 250 trains. So Danish is here to fill us in with all of the details that we know on this.
Well, due to foggy weather conditions, the visibility was severely impacted, due to which we are seeing a major disruption in train and flight services in the northern part of the country. Delhi airport till now has seen over 300 delays, and it is majorly the domestic ops that have been impacted due to poor visibility. Around 175 departures and around 85 arrivals are impacted, and around 25 to 50 international arrivals and departures are impacted from the Delhi airport. And Delhi airport saw 5 diversions to the Jaipur airport because of poor visibility. Around 12:30 a.m. The low visibility procedure was initiated, and in around 8:20 a.m. in the morning, the visibility dropped as low to 50 meters at the Delhi airport. But talking about trains now, even the train services were impacted because of foggy weather conditions. Till now, over 270 trains have been cancelled, out of which 170 trains have been cancelled because of the foggy weather condition. Talking about tomorrow, IMD has predicted that tomorrow the fog in Delhi will not be that dense, but a yellow alert has been issued for Delhi NCR tomorrow.
All right, thanks Danish for that update. And yes, Delhi, North India suffers and engulfed by cold wave as well as fog. With that, we'll slip into a short breather on Business Lunch. But when we return, we'll get you more details on China reopening its borders 2 weeks ahead of the Lunar New Year holiday. And we get your special ground report on that. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching Business Lunch. Our market's in good shape, though Nifty 50 has lost some ground in the last 10 minutes of trade. And let's talk about Asian markets and the region as well. And Asian markets are rallying after China and Hong Kong resumed the quarantine-free travel over the weekend, now effectively signaling the end of Beijing's zero-COVID policy, which, remember, kept borders shut for about 3 years. CNBC's Emily Tan files us this report from one of the border crossings between Hong Kong and China. Take a look.
This really is something to get excited about, but also with some caution, because we're watching that spike of COVID over in China and how that's going to be trickling over into Hong Kong. That's something we're keeping closely watch as well. A PCR test is required for everyone that's coming into Hong Kong 48 hours in advance, and the same goes for Hong Kong travelers into mainland as well. So we're at the Lok Ma Chau spur line. This is one of the 7 borders, the border checkpoints that are open to go into China. During COVID in the last 3 years, there was only 3. That was the airport, Shenzhen Bay, as well as the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge. Now there is 7 out of 14 total. So only half of the border points are open. I'm going to ask my cameraman to just pan over to the right here so you guys can see the bridge there with the people walking through. Those are the people that have already crossed the Hong Kong immigration. They will walk down the path, down the hall, and then on the other side is the China immigration. So this basically is the border crossing. Just about 100 meters behind me is China. We're looking at those that cross on the via the land border. There is a 50,000 cap. Here in Lok Ma Chau, 35,000 people can cross each day. 35,000 can come in. In Shenzhen Bay, if you use that border, it's 10,000. In Man Kam To, it is 5,000. So if you're here in Hong Kong, a resident, go to China and come back. Those that come back, if you're a resident of Hong Kong, will not be subject to any quotas. In order to get your quota, you'll have to register online. And as I mentioned, don't forget your PCR test as well. So this is the undoing of the zero COVID policies, Tamor, that have been in place for the last 3 years. And there is, of course, a sense of excitement on the ground that we can be able to travel freely now. It is quarantine free once you get over to China as well. So that, of course, is the latest here. Lok Ma Chau Spur Line, back to you.
Emily, thanks a lot for getting us the latest there. This is on the China reopening, and all the Asian markets are up and about on the back of this news. But shifting focus to the updates coming through from Brazil, then supporters of former President Jair Bolsonaro have taken to the streets to stage demonstrations against Lula da Silva's election triumph. Protesters stormed the Congress, the Supreme Court, and the Presidential Palace on Sunday, with some of the demonstrators calling for a military intervention to either restore the far-right Bolsonaro to power or to oust Lula from presidency. While leaders have also condemned these protests and called for a peaceful transfer of power, with U.S. President Joe Biden pledging solidarity with Brazil's democratic institutions and the will of the people, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also expressed concerns over reports of riots and vandalism taking place in the Brazilian capital and extended full support to the Brazilian authorities. All right, so that's some important news that we are tracking. But on that note, we're going to wind down on this edition of Business Lunch. We leave the markets in fine fettle. It's a 200-point gain that we are seeing on the Nifty. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Midcap Radar is up next.